Hey everyone, how's it going? Hope everyone has had an excellent week. Um, my week's been a little up and down. Been kind of a tough week here, and it actually relates to what I want to talk about today. Um, yesterday, we laid to rest my grandmother. She passed away last Friday, and so obviously it's emotional, it's sad, it's not the best thing a highlight to happen in anyone's week for sure when you have to lay to rest a loved one. But um, I was listening to my uncle's eulogy yesterday in church, and he was talking about my grandmother was a very religious lady. She's Catholic, a devout Catholic, went to church pretty much every day of her life. And that relates to what I want to talk about today is that my grandmother um, had a morning routine, which I think, when I think about it, it's not terribly surprising because most successful people that we know, they have some type of morning routine. They have something they do in the morning religiously every day. Um, but when we hear about morning routines in the context of successful people or entrepreneurs or people who live healthy lives or whatever, they're usually quite elaborate and nothing like my grandmother's morning routine. But my grandmother's morning routine was to wake up, to have her coffee, and then she would sit down and quote unquote put on her face, as she would say, meaning she would get all dressed up and put on her makeup and all that stuff. And then the next thing she would do is she would head off to church and she would get her Eucharist, and do her prayers. And she did that pretty much every day, up until the end. And that was her morning routine. And that is what set her up um, for success for the day. As long as she did that, she knew that she could get everything else she needed accomplished for the rest of the day, right? And when we hear about people's morning routines today, it's something, some elaborate thing, and I'm just as guilty of this as anyone else. My morning routine is more like I wake up, I go to the bathroom, I come downstairs, I do my meditation, which I think is kind of similar to what my something that my grandmother would get out of going to church and saying her prayers. But I would do my morning meditation. I go downstairs. I do my stretching, mobility work, and then I'll do some kind of easy aerobic work, and then it's upstairs to get the lunches packed for the kids and out the door and all that stuff. Right, that's my morning routine. But I know that if in general, if I get up, I do some type of mindfulness practice. I do some kind of either breathing during that, and I do some type of mobility and movement practice, whether it's going for a walk or getting on the rower or the bike for some kind of easy movement, that my headspace, my mood, everything about that day is going to be a lot better than if I skipped all that and didn't do it. Now there are days when I don't do my morning routine, and I consciously don't do it, and that's okay. But for the most part, if I want to be a productive, successful person during a day, I do something that sets my day up for success, and that can look like a lot of different things. For me, it's calming my brain, getting some gentle movement in, and just having some time to myself with my thoughts is really important. And I think that it was similar to what my grandmother probably got out of going to church and maybe sitting in the pew and praying and then receiving her Eucharist, and then starting her day. And I'm sure when my father was young and my uncle was young, and she had young kids, she would then do all the similar stuff that I do today with my young kids. But she needed to get that stuff done for herself before she started her day. Um, and that made her her best self so that she could show up to her work and she could be the mother and grandmother that she needed to be. And so I guess my message today is really, um, you know, I guess twofold is prioritize something that makes you your best self, right? And I think in general that has to happen in the morning, right? When you have, especially today, right? Probably a lot different, you know, 50 years ago, my grandmother started this practice, but especially today where our days can so easily be taken over by, things outside of our control, that if you prioritize some time in the morning when you have the most control over your day, and what you're doing, you're going to be able to do the things that you want to do, right? Maybe it's a complete workout, right? A lot of people like to work out in the morning. If they don't work out in the morning, they feel terrible, right? Maybe it's meditation. Maybe it's just going for a walk outside. Maybe it's reading or painting or doing a puzzle or whatever, right? Whatever puts you in that space that you can then be the best person for yourself and the people you need to support around you is going to lead you to success, right? And I think this is wide-ranging impacts from all types of goals, whether your goal is general health, your goal is weight loss, your goal is to build muscle, your goal is athletic performance, your goal is to sleep better, your goal is to eat better. It doesn't matter, right? You need to be in the right mindset. You need to be your best self in order to show up for those goals and accomplish them. So, to start your day in that mindset, to start your day putting your best foot forward, to start your day so that you set yourself up to then reach those goals and support others in reaching their goals, is the best thing you can do. So I encourage everyone to establish a morning routine. It doesn't have to look like mine. It doesn't have to look like my grandmother's. It needs to look at like whatever makes you your best self. And I think that a lot of people skip over this, and they just start their day in this kind of reactive mode. They wake up and get in the shower, and all of a sudden it's, rush here, there, that thing, and they're already like stressed out from the morning at the time they wake up, and it doesn't put them in a spot for success. So I think a morning routine isn't just like some sexy thing that all the influencers talk about. I think it actually does have a lot of practicality, and I think it does set you up for success for each day. And I think if a lot more people set themselves up for success to start in the morning, they would have a lot easier time achieving their goals and being consistent with the routines later on in the day to achieve their goals, whether it's eating or exercising or walking or whatever, just by spending 10 to 30 minutes in the morning doing something for themselves. And it's something enjoyable. It's not something terrible. Like I said, reading, meditating, going for a walk, whatever you do to feel your best in the morning. Be journaling. It doesn't have to be anything strenuous, right? It's just very easy stuff. So the hard part is developing the practice and finding which works. It took me years, 30 plus years, to develop that practice, to find the thing that worked, to come to that realization. That's the hardest part. But once you get there, once you find the thing that works for you, then you're golden, right? So it's just, again, a little bit of effort, and you have what you need. So that's really what I want to talk about today. I hope everyone has a good upcoming weekend. I'll be skipping out on next Friday's Facebook Live because it's Thanksgiving here in the U.S. So I'll be Thursday celebrating Thanksgiving, and then Friday probably doing more family stuff, taking the day off, relaxing a little bit. So I hope everyone does the same. Hopefully be back the week after, though. If you'd like to get all the content that I put out without stalking me on social media, you can go to my homepage, website, rjbhealth.coach. And at the top, there's a newsletter link. Click the newsletter link, enter your email address, and you can sign up for the newsletter. And I'll email you these Facebook Lives as well as all the other blog posts and newsletter stuff that I put out for free. And hopefully you take something away from that. If you're interested in doing some one-on-one coaching, I do have a couple spots open looking for some people, so you can jump on that. You can go to my website, again, at rjbhealth.coach. Right at the homepage, there's a schedule a discovery call button. You click that, fill out the form, and we can talk more about that. And if you have any questions or comments or any thoughts on the whole morning routine thing, I'd love to hear them. If you have a morning routine, please post it in the comments. I always try to take away new stuff from other people's morning routines and incorporate it into my own and try it out. And yeah, if you, maybe you don't want to share it publicly, you can direct message me too. I'm always happy to chat. With that, I hope everyone has a good week. Happy Thanksgiving for those who celebrate it. And I'll talk to you guys in a few weeks.